I don't understand why selling puts in the money have such high premiums. Well, because they already make economic sense. The two components to a option premium is the intrinsic value plus the time value.
That's right.
And so you're always going to pay the intrinsic value, and then you're going to pay some time value. So, the other way I would add to this is higher strike puts always have greater premiums, right? Because a choice to sell at a higher price is always more desirable than a choice to sell at a lower price, right? So I'm going to charge more accordingly, right? Now, you said selling puts. Is consider when I sell a put, I'm creating an obligation to buy the stock. And the more higher you want me to oblige myself to sell the stock, the more I'm going to add demand as a premium, right? Weekly expirations isn't about in the money. Weekly expirations is about the time value. So you're always going to pay the intrinsic value, but in a weekly option, you're going to have a lot less time value, right? So I don't know if that's helpful. It's certainly not, First Amendment, a test issue. The only test issue is to know that, sometimes on the test, they'll use the phraseology, you close it out at intrinsic value. And if you're fumbling around with that, that could be perhaps a challenge on the Series 7. But that sounds like a real world question, not a Series 7 fantasy land question, right? There's nothing about weekly expirations on the Series 7 that I'm aware of. There's leaps, which are the opposite of that. I joke, First Amendment. All of you remember we said get to matriculate and leave the testing fantasy land. Brian and I are stuck here permanently. We never get to leave the testing fantasy land. No wonder we're demented.
30 years.
30 years we're in fantasy land. I think I'm pretty close. I think I'm 30. I felt good, though. I have a guy working for me. My contractor's grandson said, "Can you do some work for me, Brian?" And boy, he knows how to ingratiate himself with me. He's doing work around the property, and he came over in his quad, and we had to go down and get him some gas. And he said, "So, what are you, like 50?" I go, "Oh, thank you so much."
One last thing about First Amendment. It really has nothing to do, and as you said, with selling puts. All options become more valuable when they're in the money. The premium reflects that in the money, dollar for dollar. So the higher above or below the strike price, the more valuable that option is going to be. So,
and First Amendment, I would just add, outside of the testing fantasy land, one of the reasons to sell options is to get paid to do something I'm already prepared to do. So if I'm already prepared to buy the stock and somebody will pay me to do so, I say, thank you so much, right? So selling puts could be an alternative to a limit order. But ideally, it looks like what you're hoping, I'm just guessing, is that those weekly options will expire and you get to keep the money. I personally think, Brian, that First Amendment may be picking up nickels in front of bulldozers. Not a good risk-reward trade-off to be obligating yourself to either sell or buy the stock with a week left. I get it. You get to go neener and keep the premium, but you don't get
picking up nickels in front of bulldozers, Dan?
Don't you think
that's a new one for me, pal?
Don't you think that's a bad risk-reward
ratio?
I
like it. Yes, I like it. I've never heard it.
Right. Don't do it. It's not worth the nickel, my friend.